broadcast or recorded.
What's funny is it says at the top of my screen, Eric is using a device that could record or broadcast this call.
There you go.
So, good job, Skype.
Looks like that cool,
what do we want to call this episode? It's 50... Nifty 50. That's what I'm calling it. Oh, are we live? We're live right now.
Apparently we're live, and I'm not sure if... Yeah, it looks like we're live. Okay.
Well...
Then I guess we should start the show.
I already gave away the title, though!
I didn't actually hit a button. Okay. This is good to know that we just start when it's time to start. Let's begin, shall we? Dice Tower Tonight, episode 50.
Nifty 50!
Welcome to Dice Tower Tonight, a video cast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On tonight's show, it's our 50th episode. Crystal is back to share her thoughts on her first Gen Con. I see how well Crystal and the chat have studied their letters of the alphabet, and we chat with the audience live. I'm Eric Summerer, and joining me now, the Tilly to my Stamets, Crystal Pisano.
I love a good Discovery reference.
Of course. This is an interesting week. Not only am I in charge of the stream for the first time, pushing all of the buttons and making sure that they all do the proper thing. We're learning how to use this new software that we've been using called Ecamm. I also had a weird day today, Crystal. I spent my whole afternoon getting photographed. My job as an audiobook narrator and voice actor sort of requires a little bit of self-promotion, and I hadn't done this for like 10 years. So I had a headshot session today, and I was in a studio posing and making the same sort of smirk and jaunty grin for hours on end. And then we went outside, and the photographer and her assistant are all there, like, just looking at me the whole time. And people are driving by in their pickup trucks, like, what is going on out in the middle of this street? It was weird.
Has no one ever seen a photo shoot before? Come on.
I guess you just don't expect it when you're just, like, in this industrial area in Middletown, Connecticut.
So photo shoots are like the Spanish Inquisition? You never expect them?
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's good to relax and just do a stream in front of all of you folks at home.
Well, my last few weeks have been a little weird, too, because we are renovating the ground floor of our house. And we've been doing so since while I was at Gen Con. And so things have been a little bit disheveled around my house. There are so many things shoved into my office right now that normally aren't in here. This whole room is filled. I already told Eric, I've trapped myself because I wanted to display a game. And so I built a makeshift table out of chairs. And I'm now trapped. So I guess I can't, abandon you. I just can't run out of the room because that's not possible.
You're stuck. So I feel like we should just begin with a game for you to talk about, since you are literally walled in with this game you want to discuss.
That is accurate, and I'm not going to be able to put it away easily. So briefly, before I show you all this game, I did want to say I played and acquired a lot of very cool games at Gen Con, and I'm not going to be able to discuss all of them in length in the near future because, well, I don't make enough video content to do that. So I'll maybe list off some games later if we have time. And if people want to hear my thoughts on specific games, I'd be happy to share those. Also, my live Q&A is this coming Sunday here on the channel at 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to talk to me more about games I played at Gen Con, that would probably be a really good opportunity as well. So one of the games that I got at Gen Con, I actually got a review copy of this game. It's from Foxmind Games, and it's called Bermuda Pirates. Whoop. I'm going to grab the box so I can show you all that. Bermuda Pirates was not on my radar prior to Gen Con, and as soon as they described it to me, I was interested. So I'm going to bring you all down here. Apologies for the motion. Yeah, I know, right? It's a little bit awkward, but so the board is set up. It's a dual layered board. The layers underneath are made up of 4 square tiles that go underneath the main folding board, and those tiles have magnets in them. You are attempting to collect treasure. You're trying to collect one of each colored treasure and bring them back to your home base before any other player. That's the whole game. Very simple at its core. But the way you do that is by, so I've already preloaded my ship with some treasure here, is you are trying to use your finger to push your ship around and make sure that you don't lose the treasure on it, because, oh no, what if you hit well, see, that one I lost just by this being on a shaky material, but I'm just driving along and, oh no, that gem got flung into the ocean. This game, it's super silly. You're literally just trying to drive your boats around. You drive up to the middle to pick up the gems, and then you drive back to your base to drop them off, and you try and be the first one to collect one of each color. I had to show it to you because this cool magnet mechanism means the 4 tiles underneath here are rotatable, so you'll never know where the magnets are. Unless, but what's cool is in any given game, when you do figure out where the magnets are, you can use these little buoys to say, oh, I know there's a magnet there. Yep. But what's neat is there's no rules regarding where you place buoys. And if the other players want to come over and try and steal gems that you've dropped into the ocean, you could throw them off by putting the buoy a little bit off of where the magnet is so they steer right into it, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, it works really well that when you hit a magnet, the gems just go flying and then they stay in the ocean for other players to pick up. This one is a delight. It is obviously lightweight. I think this one is probably really good for families with small and large kids alike. I've only played it with adults so far, and we've had a blast with it. So I was very grateful that Foxfind was willing to give me a copy of this one, because when I heard about it, I had to have it. So Bermuda Pirates is a win for me, and I believe I looked it up online. I don't know which stores I think it's still pre-ordered on Cool Stuff Inc., but it retails MSRP for $30, and I think you can get it for as little as $22 from one of the I think Cool Stuff has it listed at 21 something. And for this game, I would say that's definitely a reasonable price. Lots of fun. Those modular boards make it infinitely replayable. You'll never know where the magnets are. And yeah, so 2 thumbs up for me for Bermuda Pirates.
That's cool. I think when you were talking about this at Gen Con that I mentioned that there's a similar game, I think it's Dry Magier Spiele, that did Magician's Kitchen, which had these big meeples that carried ingredients to corners of the board, and it was that similar thing. Instead of rotating tiles underneath the board, they had magnet marbles that you actually shook around at the beginning of the game to distribute the magnets. There was the problem that we had with it was that there were only so many places where the magnet could settle, and at some point you knew to avoid any possibility of it. Once you got really good at maneuvering the pieces around, you could say this spot might contain a magnet, so I'm just going to steer around that spot entirely, or hug the edges of the board because that's not a possible location for a magnet, and it sort of ruined it a little bit because you knew it made it too easy, basically. Right.
And I think they've accounted for that because you have the 4 different tiles that can all be placed in 4 different configurations anywhere on the board. So literally there could be a magnet anywhere. So there's just no accounting for where they will definitely be. I think they've done a really good job of making sure that you will, you might know that it could be in the middle, but chances are it's an inch to the left or an inch to the right, and there's no way to know.
Right. That's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
So I have 2 games that are also good for young kids and families. The first, the Root Beer Float Challenge game. Now, notice next to my head how big this can is, but it looks like a can of root beer. The publisher here is, where'd they go? Playtacular is the name. This sort of reminds me of Double Dare. Hang on. So,
you're talking about root beer and Double Dare, 2 things that I love already. So.
Yeah, sure. So inside is this plastic thing, which contains all of the stuff that you use for the game. This is basically a stunt style game, physical challenges. It's got this rather complicated plastic container that I know I'm going to mess up in taking these pieces out. But it's got some challenge cards that tell you what you're trying to do. You roll a die at the beginning of your turn that tells you which ingredient card to draw or which type of challenge to draw, because there are some challenges that are for just you, there are some that are like a head-to-head thing, and there are some that are a cooperative challenge. And each one of these will be worth a certain number of ingredients. The object of the game is to get a cherry, ice cream, root beer, and is it the straw? It's 4 ingredients that make up a root beer float. I think the straw is the last ingredient. And if you get all of them, you will win the game. This is all just going to fall out. Yeah, straw is one of the last things that I'm trying. I have other things set up here, and I have very little space. So this is the ice cream. So it looks like a giant ping pong ball, and it basically is. What these challenges are asking you to do is use the components. So you've got this big ice cream ball. You've got 4 of these rather sturdy straws. There are cherries that you can see in there. There's a die. That's the one that you roll. Cherries, straws, ice cream ball. And the can itself, because you're going to use that for challenges. So you might have to take the ice cream ball and throw it into the can from a certain distance away, or take these 2 straws and put the cherry and balance the cherry on the straw and pass it to someone else when they're holding their 2 straws. And if you succeed, you get the card. You get to choose one of the ingredients displayed on the back of the card, and if you fail, well, then you don't. This continues until somebody wins. It's silly. Some of the challenges are way easy, and I wish there was a little bit more clarity on how you're supposed to adjudicate them. So, like, it says, take 4 steps away from something and then try and throw this into the bin. And 4 of my children's steps is not very far, and my son actually just leaned forward and dropped the thing in the bucket, whereas my steps would be much farther away. Also, there are points at which when you have to do a cooperative challenge, and winning that cooperative challenge will cause your partner to win the game, well, then you're just going to throw the challenge. And so we had a couple of times it's like, oops, I dropped the cherry. It's like, well, thanks for even trying. So I don't know if I'm really sold on this game. This is a short-term distraction, but my kids enjoyed it, and the props are pretty solid. I mean, these are nice props, and I could see us using something like this for a live show or some sort of party event. It certainly does its job. It's just not one that I, 1, want to store, because where's this going to go? And 2, play on a regular basis. But that's the Root Beer Float Challenge game. It's novel.
That's interesting. It actually reminds me of, and for the record, I know that this game show wasn't the first to do this kind of format, but the Minute to Win It game show.
Yes.
It seems like they're like kind of shorter, abbreviated challenges that are similar to that. And now that I've said that, why isn't there a Minute to Win It board game yet? It feels like that would be like a home run for that brand. Well, first off, Minute to Win It might not be on anymore, probably.
Right.
I'm way behind in my game shows, but it feels like that would be a perfect board game for some company to make. Put, a bunch of the weird small components into a box, and yeah, like, it seems like that would be easy to do. All right, hold on. I'm going to take all that back, and I'm going to say I said nothing, and I'm going to go talk to a publisher. No.
I think I want to say there is a Minute to Win It board game somewhere.
Maybe there is.
Anyway, the other game I wanted to talk about, Crystal, I know you got the spiel on this as well. It is Dirty Pig card game. This is from North Star Games. It's part of the same line as Happy Salmon, although this has nothing to do with Happy Salmon. It's a totally different game. This is a very light take-that game that comes in this lovely pig-shaped container about getting your pigs dirty. You will have a number of these pigs. These pigs want to be dirty. If they're dirty, they're happy. If they're clean, they're not happy. So your object is to get all of them dirty. The way you do this is by playing cards. You have a hand of, I think, 3 of them. And then you're going to play 1 card on your turn. You can play... Where'd he go? A dirty card. That gets your pig dirty. You flip it over. That's easy. Or you can attack your opponents by cleaning their pig. They hate that.
Oh, no!
You don't want that. There's also, because we're weather wizards, you can make it rain, which causes all of the pigs to get clean. Unless you build a barn, which you can do over one of your pigs. Except that barn is open, so you can still sneak in and clean the pig if the barn door is open. So the way you get around that is by building a door. Where's the door? There's a door in here somewhere. You can build a door. Here it is. Build a door on the barn. So then no one can sneak in and get inside. Unless you bring down lightning, because we're weather wizards, and burn the barn down. That removes the barn. You don't want that either. So to avoid that, you need to build, where is it? I saw it. A lightning rod, which will prevent the barn from getting struck by lightning and burning down. So if you have a dirty pig with a locked door and a lightning rod surrounded by a barn, that pig is safe and there's no way for them to get clean. You can't do that with everybody, though, and so there's a lot of taking that and attacking your opponents, and who do you go for? How do you protect your own pigs? It has sort of a Mealborn feel to it, a little bit. It is super light, but my kids really liked it, because the rules are dead simple. I just gave you pretty much everything you need to know about the game. And my son really did enjoy, building barns and cleaning my pigs, and it's just silly fun. There's not a lot of depth here, but for what it's trying to do as a quick filler game that works for families, I think it works. Dirty Pig from North Star Games.
And I'm a sucker for the fun animal-shaped containers. I know that they don't display well necessarily on a shelf, but I guess North Star now has enough of those games that you could kind of make a little shelf with all your little animals on it.
They have the little carabiners, which I think is nice. You can attach it to, a bag and carry it easily around. I don't know where I'm going to store this one either, but I could at least hang it on something.
Absolutely. Yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to play that one yet. I picked it up also alongside you, and man, I've played a lot of my Gen Con games, more than I thought I would at this point, considering I've been busy with the house renovation, but there are still quite a few that I need to get through. I'm really sad that I haven't yet played the Herb Witches expansion for Quacks of Quedlinburg. And what's funny is the reason I haven't played it yet is because I didn't own the base game Quacks yet. I had ordered it from a friendly local game store prior to Gen Con, and I'd played it a bunch of times at my game nights because almost everybody in my game group, it seems, has this game. Mm-hmm. So I'd played it a whole bunch and just didn't own it yet. So my copy I just went and picked up this past weekend at my friendly local game store. So now I have the base game and the expansion and the upgraded bits from Board Game Geek for both the base game and the expansion.
Yep.
Oh, it's too much. And I'm so excited.
I also haven't had a chance to play yet, but I did sort my bits for the Quacks expansion. Because I had these plastic trays. They're like cylindrical that can screw together. So you end up with this column of bits in these plastic trays. And for the base game, it only took... there's 7 or 8 different varieties, but the expansion adds another variety and adds enough tokens that they no longer fit in those things. So I then had to split up the tokens into ones and higher than ones. So I have 2 different trays for each of the different colors of tokens, except for the ones that don't need to. And that is too big. Once I make the column, it's too big to fit in the box. So now I have to make one column and then make a smaller column of 2 or 3 other trays. Anyway, that's
have any of the insert companies latched onto this game yet? Because it feels like this one is begging for a custom insert now.
It is ripe for one. I haven't gone looking on the various sites. I have been a little insert happy. As another tangent here, I built my Gloomhaven insert this week. It is complete, and I put the game in the box with the insert, which took just as long as building the insert, by the way. It took me, I did one night of building, and then the glue dried overnight, and then it took a whole other day to put all of the pieces in the box. But now it's ready for when I want to play it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, I believe you have a dastardly challenge for the chat and I.
Dastardly indeed. So I was at a little bit of a loss on what to do today. I was thinking at first, since we were talking about Gen Con, or will be talking about Gen Con, and that there were 70,000 people at Gen Con this year, that I would pick things that are near 70,000, like how many games were sold from a particular company in one year, and you could guess whether it's more or less than 70,000. That seemed fun. That's not what I did. I didn't do that. So instead, we're going to play a combination of a trivia game and Killer Bunnies and the Quest for the Magic Carrot. Are you familiar with Quest for the Magic Carrot, Crystal?
What's funny is I am certain I have played Killer Bunnies, and I have photo proof of that, but it has been probably 7 or 8 years since the last time I played it. So
Okay.
I remember it being in the same ballpark as Munchkin for me when I was earlier in my gaming career, and I had a lot of fun with it, but I haven't necessarily gone back to it recently.
Okay. So the main conceit of the game is that you spend a lot of time attacking rabbits and bringing them out and eventually earning carrots, one of which is the magic carrot. So at the end of the game, you may have acquired 4 different carrots, and I've only acquired 1. It's still possible that I win the game because the one I have is the magic carrot. And so we're going to take that mechanism. I have in my hand 10 cards from paperback. Each one lists one of the letters of the alphabet from A through J. I'm going to shuffle this up, and I am going to choose one of them secretly. You're not going to know which one it is. Your job, Crystal, actually the chat's job, is to pick the letter card that I just picked out right here. I'm going to set it right there, and the rest of the cards are going away. Simple as that, right? You will do that, or chat will do that, by picking from this assortment of letter cards, which I took from the Paco Games game.
Every time I say the name of that game, I'm like, it's a thing I'm saying. Shh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, chat will choose cards from this array, hopefully choosing the one that I set aside just a moment ago. How many do they get to choose? Well, that's up to you, Crystal. Or more accurately, it's up to the weather. Would you say, Crystal, that it's a sunny day?
I would say that it is a sunny day.
Would you say that it was sweeping the clouds away?
You know what? Yeah.
Yeah?
Sweeping those clouds away.
Yeah. On your way, perhaps, to where the air may or may not be sweet?
Can you tell me, Eric, how to get to the end of this bit? Because really, I think it's overstayed its welcome.
Oh, yeah. Oh, just you wait. So, yes, Sesame Street. Sesame Street turns 50 this year. And what better way to celebrate Sesame Street turning 50 than by playing a 15-year-old trivia game about Sesame Street?
Oh, goodness.
So, I have 10 questions about Sesame Street. For each one you guess correctly, Crystal, the chat will get to choose one letter. If they then choose the one letter that I drew earlier, everybody wins. If not, well, at least we had fun. Quick review, the trivia game's kind of dumb. You just try and move around a track, and if you get a correct answer, you get to move forward on the track, and that's about it. The questions, however, come in 2 flavors. There is Easy Street. Your first 3 questions will come from Easy Street, Crystal, and Challenge Avenue, which are more difficult questions that tend to go, they're sort of kid questions and adult questions. The kid ones are pretty obvious. The adult questions are ones that you need to maybe know a little more about the history of Sesame Street in order to get them. So, real quick, how familiar are you with Sesame Street?
I definitely watched it on PBS as a kid. Since I have no children of my own, I have not seen it in a very long time. I will admit, like, when news stories come out about it, whether that's good or bad, I've kind of caught those through the years. But since this is a 15-year-old game, I think most of that stuff has been after that time period. So we're just going to have to hope. I think I would remember, like, character names and popular bits, some of the really popular songs. So we'll see how this goes.
Okay. I mean, because it's a 15-year-old game, it doesn't have any of the HBO acquisition of Sesame Street or any of that. I also tried to pick questions that were timeless, that were about the history of the show that hasn't changed. Are you ready?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
Okay. Question number 1. This is from Easy Street, so you should breeze through these, right? Do Bert and Ernie have ears?
Yes.
Yes, they do. The Count also has ears, but they're pointy. So 1. See? This is easy. You got this.
I had to picture Bert's like little tiny ears, and Ernie's ears are bigger, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think so. Yes. Okay. Next question, true or false? Ernie's sweater has red, white, and blue stripes.
His sweater is definitely striped, but I don't think it has red, white, and blue on it. I'm going to say that is false.
False is correct. They're red, yellow, and blue. There you go, 2. True or false? I just love the wording of this. True or false? Elmo is a monster.
That feels like a meme in the making. Yes, true. Elmo is a monster.
Elmo is a monster. He's a furry red monster. True. All right. So that was too easy. Those were gimmies. Let's get into the challenge questions, but we're going to stick with Elmo. In what year did Elmo first appear? This is multiple choice. A, 1979, B, 2003, C, 1982, or D, 1969?
Okay, so I don't think Elmo was around at the inception of the show. So I've narrowed it down in my head to either 79 or 82. I'm going to go with 82 based on nothing other than a sheer guess.
Okay. 82 is wrong. Elmo premiered in 1979. He first appeared on the show as a little red monster sort of in the background of a scene in 1979. So, sorry, that one is in the not win pile.
I wonder if I could remember the year that Tickle Me Elmo was the Christmas toy that everyone needed to have.
I want to say it's 93.
I think it's later than that. Wasn't it like later 90s?
Maybe 96.
I was thinking like 97 or 99 for some reason, but 99's too late.
You might be right, actually. I think I got a Tickle Me Elmo in college.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, well, Chad will tell us in about, 30 seconds.
I'm sure. All right. Picture question. Who's this?
Oh.
What's his name?
That is
Sort of blurry, isn't it?
a character
Yes.
named Inspector George. I made it up.
It is not Inspector George, but a lovely guess. That is Sherlock Hemlock.
Wait, hemlock? Isn't hemlock poison?
Maybe, but it also rhymes with Sherlock.
Well, right, but in Sherlock Okay, well, I did not know that.
Sherlock Hemlock. Fun fact, I actually held a Sherlock Hemlock puppet when I worked for Henson. I got to hold him. Okay.
You were correct about 96 for the Tickle Me Elmo.
Aha! Nice. Okay, next question. Who hosts Monsterpiece Theater?
Monsterpiece Theater. I know. I am familiar. Like, it's obviously a parody of Masterpiece Theater. It's like the plush robe and I don't think they have cigars, but like the whole like burgundy looking room. And it's weird because in my head, it's Cookie Monster, but that doesn't seem right based on his persona. But I can't picture anybody else, so I'm going to say Cookie Monster.
You're half right. Can you name his character?
Okay. So, oh man, I don't remember the original host of Masterpiece Theater, and I'm imagining his character is a parody of that as well. But I don't remember the original host or his character's name. So,
Chat's got it.
Okay.
Nick from the chat just guessed it. Actually, let me see if I can put that up there. Can I actually put that in the chat? There we go. Alistair Cookie is the name of the character he played. Alistair Cook was the actual
Oh, okay.
Actual host of Masterpiece Theater. But again, that goes in the lose pile. You haven't gotten any of the challenge questions yet, Crystal.
They're quite challenging.
Okay, well, here's one that I think you should be able to get. Sesame Challenge. What sounds does a Martian make?
What sounds does a Martian make?
We could go with what sound does a Martian make?
Okay, well, I mean, yip, yip, yip.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yep,
Oh,
yep,
yay!
yep, 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 yep. Yep, 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 yep.
I was like, I'm not sure if those are Martians or monsters, but that's what we're gonna go with.
Chat is correcting me that Neo actually got the answer correct first. I just missed it in the scroll. Sorry about that, Neo. Okay, so that's another one. You have a challenge question in the win column. Let's move on. What does the amazing Mumford often say as he waves his magic wand to do a magic trick?
Well, for the record, I do not know this reference for Sesame Street specifically. Okay. So just based on old-fashioned magic, I'm going to guess abracadabra.
Nice try. A la peanut butter sandwiches.
I wasn't going to get that.
Catchphrase. Okay, so this is where I'm wondering if our age difference is going to come into play, because I remember all these characters, but I'm a little older than you are, I think. Okay, 2 more questions to go. Back in the day, what was so special about Big Bird's friendship with Snuffleupagus? What was unusual about their relationship?
Huh. Unusual about their relationship. Man, this is making for good video. Me just staring off into space.
I think this is another one that you've missed this as a cultural touchstone.
Maybe. Like, because I remember them being friends. I remember Snuffleupagus visiting him in his nest. I think I remember Snuffleupagus being sad a lot, and Big Bird usually being that kind of like person to help cheer him up.
Chat is definitely getting that. Yes, yes, a lot of them are getting it.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to cover it up then because I can see my screen. I don't. Maybe are they brothers? Was Snuffleupagus adopted by Big Bird's family?
That is an interesting thought, but no. For a long time, Snuffleupagus was treated as an imaginary friend for Big Bird. He was real, but only Big Bird would see him, and every time Big Bird wanted to introduce him to someone, Snuffy would wander off before another character could come in and see him. So while he was real, everybody thought he was Big Bird's imaginary friend. They changed this in a big reveal. In fact, Elmo, I think, was one of the first characters to actually see Snuffy, because they were worried that kids would tell adults things that were important and adults would not believe them. And so they changed that whole backstory, and so Snuffleupagus became a regular member of the street.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder, I'd be curious, I'll Google it later, or maybe chat can tell us. I'd be curious to know when that transition took place, because I think he interacted with multiple characters anytime I saw him growing up. I was born in 84, so I would have started watching Sesame Street in the mid to late 80s. Okay. So I'd be curious to know if that transition happened before I started watching, but that's really cool.
I think mid to late 80s was about when that happened, actually. Okay, last question. Last chance to get one on the board. You have 4 correct, so in order to get a 50-50 chance, you need to get this one correct. Season 1, Show 1. What color was Oscar the Grouch?
I think I actually know this one. Hold on, I'm covering up chat in case they are really fast with it, and I want to talk through this. So I know he's green now, obviously, but if I remember correctly, I believe he was originally orange. Is that not right?
Orange is correct. He was orange, bright orange, and then they changed it, I think, almost immediately because green worked better.
The only reason I know that one is because I play pub trivia frequently, and I feel like that one has come up at some point.
Okay, so you got 5 out of the 10. That's great. 50-50 chance. So here's how this is going to go, chat. I have the letters A through J, and I'm going to try and follow as quickly as I can. The first 5 unique letters are the ones I will grab out of this array. So chat, go ahead and throw out a letter, a capital letter, so I can possibly see it. And you can be one of the selectors for Crystal's. Okay, I see an F. So I'll just grab F out of here. I see D. Still selecting chat. I see another F. F is apparently popular. A lot of Fs. G. Ambi says G. Okay. I see an E and a J.
I believe that'll be 5.
It. That is it. Okay. So we have, once again, E, or D, E, F. Now, all chat is just going nuts with letters. I got them! Thank you. Okay. D, E, F, G, and J. Those are your selections, thanks to chat. And the one of them just gets washed out entirely. Okay.
The egg, the E.
So, if this is the one that was over here on the desk. It has not moved since we've been playing the game. If this is one of those letters, you and the chat have won the game. What do you think your chances are? I mean, it's 50-50. I don't know why I'm asking that question.
Yeah, I would say that's what I'd guess.
It's an A.
Oh.
And that's how a game of Killer Bunnies goes. All that work.
For nothing.
Just for that. But I hope you had a good time. I had a good time.
I mean, it's our 50th episode celebrating the 50th anniversary of Sesame Street.
Right. Yeah, perfect. I planned that. I did plan that.
I love it.
Okay, so let's move on to our discussion for tonight. Crystal, you have returned, or I guess it's been a few weeks now, maybe 3 weeks, since your return from your very first Gen Con. And well, I want to hear what you did and how you enjoyed yourself. And what I am really interested from a first-timer's perspective is what would make the event better in your mind? How could the show improve? How could you improve in your approach to the show? What would you do differently next time? So let's start with general thoughts on the show, how you navigated Gen Con.
So first off, I had a wonderful time. Anything that I say here that I'm like, I sound sad about is like the tiniest of quibbles generally. I had a really amazing time at Gen Con. I think it is a very well-run convention. Obviously, they've got 50 plus years of experience at this point, and so if it wasn't well-run, that would be kind of weird. It was overwhelming, which a lot of people prepared me for, so it wasn't surprisingly overwhelming. It was expectedly overwhelming, which I think is a different kind of thing. Like, if you are expecting to be overwhelmed and you're overwhelmed, I think it's less stressful in general. Walking through the crowds tended to be my least favorite part. Being in the vendor hall in and of itself wasn't horrible, but when you were trying to move from point A to point B and they were not near each other, that was sometimes frustrating. Just because... Oh, so what I see the Snuffleupagus. What does it say? 1985.
Yep.
So that would have been before I started watching. That I would have literally been 11 months old at that point, almost to the day, 11 months old when Snuffleupagus appeared. So yeah, it was really, really fun. Overwhelming. Crowds in the vendor hall, moving from place to place were tough. I never had time where I had nothing to do because there are always things to do. There's enough going on that you can always find something. But I do regret not scheduling more things in advance. Just because I felt like I was kind of wandering without direction a lot of the time. And I always ended up finding something to do. Mm-hmm. But there were a lot of events and demos and things like that I kind of wished I would have checked out that would have been easier to fit in had I scheduled them in advance rather than just kind of trying to stumble across them. And especially for me as a content creator, I should have set up more meetings with publishers, but because I have not attended a lot of large board game conventions in the past, I'm not as knowledgeable about how to go about doing that. And Gen Con's system is actually really good for press, but because I had an exhibitor badge, I wasn't on the press list. And these are all things that I've kind of learned about after the fact, and I feel like I will do better next time. I also am genuinely hesitant to just approach a vendor and introduce myself to them. It's funny, as a outgoing and gregarious person, I do kind of get scared about advocating for myself, which I wish wasn't the case, but it is. I don't want people to think that I am placing expectations on them, and especially when it comes to my relationship with publishers, I don't ever want them to think that I am just walking up and asking for free things, because that's not a thing that I do, and it's not a thing I ever will do. But I know that there are other people who do that, and I don't want to come across that way, so then I just don't do anything, which isn't necessarily the right thing either. But so as a content creator, lots of mistakes. As an attendee in general, would have scheduled more stuff. So ways that I think the con could do specific things to make it a little bit less daunting for first timers. They do a really good job of having maps available and having lots of employees around to ask questions to, and having schedules of all of the events. But because there's so many things, a schedule doesn't really help that much if you don't have a plan.
Right.
A giant list of all the things going on in a given day is still overwhelming. So I think something that I would have liked, I don't even know if this is possible, would to have like a daily first timers or newbie guide of, here are some of the lighter events going on today that maybe aren't ticketed, or the publishers have expressed that they are very willing to kind of help guide you through a thing, whether that's a demo or whatever else, but just like a suggested schedule if you're a newcomer, or here's 3 different schedules for the day that you could follow if you're a newcomer. Obviously it couldn't be ticketed events and things like that, and it theoretically can end up being publishers paying for spots in that suggested guide, and I see where it could break down very quickly. But if I just had a highlights reel of each day of the things of note happening today that you might want to check out, that would have been nice, maybe?
Did you pick up the convention book?
So no, is the answer to that question. So I'm saying all of these things with very little knowledge.
Okay.
But does something like that exist in the book already that I just don't know about?
More or less, yeah. So the convention book, which is available in little kiosks around the convention, has the event schedule. I think that's in there as well, unless it's a separate thing entirely. But it also has maps of all the different halls and venues, and also featured pages of highlights and things that you can do on various days. The major shows, I think our Dice Tower show was in that booklet somewhere, and I believe it has lots of advertisements. As you said, people can pay to be featured in this thing, and you can be shown various events in that book. But that is a good starting spot to at least get an overview of the variety of things that can be happening at the show.
Okay, well, I'm glad that my suggestion is already in place. I think the only other thing that I came up with that would be maybe helpful to new attendees is having some kind of dedicated employees who are not stationed in a specific place, who are on the lookout for confused or, people you can tell who is kind of overwhelmed or confused, and having employees that are dedicated and specifically attempting to approach and offer help to those people if they want it. And that's not to say that I necessarily needed that kind of help, because I had the Dice Tower booth. Basically, if I didn't know where to go, I was going to the Dice Tower booth. I was fine, but I imagine there might be other people who become so overwhelmed by everything that they kind of just shut down and back out of the room and just, go elsewhere. So that might be nice too. But you're smiling at me. Does that exist as well already, Eric?
You mean people?
Yeah, people who are specifically for the purpose of doing nothing but seeking out people who need a helping hand of some sort. Like, for the record, all of the employees that I interacted with there were lovely, and all of them would answer questions and offer advice if you approached them. But I was kind of like, it would have been nice to have somebody that was approaching you, theoretically. I guess not everybody would like that, though.
Yeah, I don't think Gen Con has that. They do have some information desks and the availability to seek out information. One convention that does this a little better is PAX. PAX Unplugged has their enforcers, and they assign people to be question answerers, and they are standing in prominent positions in like the confluence of hallways with a big old question mark sign that says, "Have a question, ask me." And they seem to be a lot more aggressive, isn't quite the word, proactive in helping out people that look like they need it. While you can get help at Gen Con, it's not quite as easy to do so.
Okay, no, what you're describing at PAX sounds kind of exactly what I was envisioning, so that's pretty cool. I, for the record, am not currently scheduled to go to PAX Unplugged, but I really, really, really want to, and I don't know how to make that happen. What's interesting for me is my husband and I are actually planning on going to New York for Thanksgiving, which is the weekend before PAX Unplugged.
Yes.
And so I don't think I can swing a whole week off of work, because I also have to have vacation days for the Dice Tower cruise in January. But if I could swing a whole week off work and do Thanksgiving with my in-laws and then PAX Unplugged the following weekend, wouldn't that be so much fun?
That would be pretty awesome. That's a great convention. I really, really enjoy it. I hope that I'm able to go this year. That's still a little up in the air as far as my schedule. But it's a great one.
But so Gen Con was awesome. I had a really wonderful time. I actually discussed a little bit more about this in the episode of Board Game Blitz that's going to come out next week. So if people want to hear more of my thoughts, that's another good place to do that, since we're going to run out of time for this discussion here. I will say the thing that surprised me the most, for me personally, about Gen Con was I had always heard for years that like the rush to buy games and the excitement around purchasing games. And I, at smaller board game conventions, have never felt any kind of real pull to buy games at the con. I will check them out, I'll demo them. If there's something I really love, I'll buy it. But I've never been had that magnetic pull. And at Gen Con, I got that pull all over the place, and I don't know why or how. I knew AEG was going to start selling Point Salad on Saturday morning, and I had played Point Salad at Dice Tower Con in July, and I don't need to own that game right this second. It's great, I love it, but I needed to go buy it Saturday morning. I don't know why. Gen Con has magic, apparently, because there were things that I just had to have, and I'm not usually like that. So that's that was my surprise, I suppose, which whether that's good or bad, I don't know. My hall was a lot smaller than other people's, but also a lot larger than my normal halls. So
yeah, there's definitely something in the air at Gen Con, and my advice always is to sort of hold back if you can, and keep it to one or two purchases that you need right now, that you know you're going to play immediately. And Point Salad, we did play immediately, if I recall correctly, Crystal. We played it that night while we were waiting for a table at a local eating establishment. So
that is true.
It got play.
It did. And it's been played since then, since I got home. I've actually played, of the games that I acquired, I have completely played, not just broken out and looked at the components. I've played the Trapper Keeper game, Cartographers, Letter Jam, Point Salad, Escape Room in a Box Flashback, Rail Pass, Mountains, Kenny G keeping it saxy, Bermuda Pirates. So yeah, a lot of new games I acquired, I have played in the past 3 weeks. So it's not like they've just been sitting unplayed on a shelf. I will say my one thing that I haven't played fully since I got it yet is Funkoverse, and I'm sad about that. I want to break that one out immediately, because I demoed it at the con, and I love it. I think it's so neat, and I want to play a full game, but I haven't gotten around to that one yet.
Very cool. Folks that are here in the chat that have joined us, thank you for joining us live. We certainly appreciate it. If you have any questions about Crystal's experience at Gen Con, my experience at Gen Con, or really just anything that you want to talk about, just start sending those questions in now. One thing that someone mentioned, I forgot, it scrolled past, is that Gen Con needs more places to play games, to actually just sit down and play. What was your solution, Crystal, for finding places to play at Gen Con?
I didn't really think about it that much, I guess. So they have places that you can go play games. I never actually went over to Lucas Oil Stadium, but from what I've been told, there's lots of places to play over there.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime that I wanted to play a game, I guess you and I actually wanted to play Quirky Circuits together, and we ended up wandering around for quite some time trying to find a place. But that was because we were off-site. We were at the hotel we were staying at, trying to find somewhere to play, and there were tables set up to play games, but all of them were taken the night that we were trying to play it. So.
Yes, we ended up having to just play in somebody's room to get a chance to play it there. I actually didn't make it out to Lucas Oil Stadium this time. One place that's a great place to visit, but it requires an event ticket, is Board Game Geek's Hot Games area. You have to pay. I think you either get a reservation or can use generic tickets, but they have a bunch of the brand new games in this room that you can play. And it's a real hoppin' place. I didn't get to go this year, but I was in there last year, and it's a really nice facility and service. If you're looking for somewhere to play after hours, it's a great location to be.
And I think their Hot Games, their room was actually in our hotel, right? Like on the second floor?
Yes,
or I saw
they were.
something. Okay,
Yep.
Yeah. I know, I kind of glanced in there and I was like, ooh, that looks like a neat place, but I don't have access. So
Yeah.
I kept on wandering.
David has an interesting comment about finding places to play as well. If you go to the play hall and ask the headquarters, they'll give you a table to play at for a certain amount of time. And that's what David does. Which I've never done. I usually try and skip that step and just try and find a place in the regular demo hall, but that is the proper way to do it because they'll know what tables are available and not have events at them. But it again is a little trickier to find play space at Gen Con. It does exist though, which is nice.
I just have to say there's someone in the chat named Doggo Explosion, and that's an amazing username.
That is pretty cool.
Doggo Explosion. That's great.
So other questions that pop up. Someone was asking about the retreat.
Which you are attending.
I will be at the retreat. That's in just like 2 weeks. Is that right? Looking at the calendar. We got next week. And then the week after that. Yeah, in 2 weeks is the retreat. And someone else asking if I was going to be bringing Merchant of Venus. And yes, that is the plan. I will have it with me. I have my travel copy. And so that one will be around.
Tom asked me to come to the retreat, and I would have loved to. But again, that whole pesky not having enough vacation days from my 9-to-5 job is,
Yep.
I keep telling them that I have this other thing. It's board games, and they all kind of look at me in whatever, bemusement. Although I will say some of my coworkers now know that I do live content on YouTube and that I'm a celebrity, I say with very large air quotes, at board game events, and they think that that's pretty neat. I had to clarify. I was like, I'm the lowest level of celebrity that a person can possibly be. Like, I am known by a very tiny percentage of people at very specific events, and even then, like on the Dice Tower cruise last year, there were plenty of people who had no idea who I was that were part of our group. So, like.
Well, I'm sure that you're getting more fans every day, Crystal, I'm sure.
Well, I'm working on it, but, the 9-to-5 job does get in the way of that. Like, I'd love to make more videos and more board game content, but there's only so many hours in the day, so.
Elmo or Big Bird?
I think when I was a kid, I would have said Elmo, but now I feel like I say Big Bird, but I'm not quite sure why.
I like the innocence of... I like the more grounded innocence of Big Bird. Elmo is almost too much. But there was a time I was really into Elmo, too.
Elmo's excitement about life is kind of like contagious, which like I think that fits with my aesthetic a little bit more, like just the flailing the arms in the air and just like, you know, just super excited about everything. I do enjoy that part of Elmo for sure.
Mac Drizzle was sharing a cool story that they are going to be demoing Too Many Bones at a few conventions in the near future. And since they already have Too Many Bones, they're actually going to be giving it away to someone that demos the game, which is pretty cool to be doing that.
That is really cool and very kind.
That's very, very cool. More meat on Big Bird. That's great if you're going to eat them.
I don't think we should be eating Muppets.
Yeah, they're very fuzzy.
Yeah.
It's that fur. Anyway. Wow. Lots of, people talking about YouTube famous.
I scrolled up a little bit and William asked, what was the most surprising game at Gen Con? That's an interesting question. So you were the one that had talked about Rail Pass in advance of Gen Con when you and I were talking.
Right, yes.
And then I got very excited about it after I played it at Gen Con.
I haven't actually played my copy yet. I did rush out and get it, and apparently it's now available everywhere. So that was one of those that I rushed to buy when they said, oh, we're almost sold out, and you won't be able to get it for a while. And I purchased it, but haven't played it yet. Part of the problem is my kids have been at camp. They've been away and out of the house for the past couple weeks, and I haven't had a chance to really play the games that I've been intending to play with them, and that was one that I wanted to try with them. But like Machi Koro Legacy, we only got one game in. Aftermath, I'm waiting to play with them, and that hasn't happened yet. I'm looking forward to them coming home at the end of this week.
Yeah, and it was neat. I actually hadn't heard the story. I guess the designer of Rail Pass has been taking it around to conventions for the past 2 or 3 years and demoing it for people, and just finally got it published. So I think that's a cool story because it's a really fun game. And I know a lot of designers, you know, kind of have to advocate for their games for a long time before the right publisher comes along and purchases it. That's not the right term. Picks it up. Mm-hmm. And Mercury Games took a chance on this one. And I think it was a smart decision on their part because it is a lot of fun.
Very cool. Let's see. Where did it go? I had a question that was here. Oh, have either of us had a chance to play Tapestry?
I have not.
Yeah, the answer to me is no, although I did do the narration for the video, so I got to see, if you've seen the announcement video, it's this adorable animation style that shows you how the game is played and what all the components look like, and it's like stop motion animation with little explosions and like wool clouds of smoke when somebody attacks somebody else. It's adorable. So I got sort of an overview of the mechanisms, but I have not played the game yet.
It sounds really interesting. I'm definitely intrigued by it.
People are now talking about their favorite Sesame Street bits, which is entertaining.
I'm trying to think if I have a favorite like bit from like when I was young. I don't know if I do necessarily.
Pinball number count is one that I always jam to, which was the Pointer Sisters, by the way, if you did not know that.
Did not.
Yeah, I sought out, there was a boxed set of Sesame Street music that was available probably around the same time this game came out, maybe even like a 30th anniversary set that had the pinball number count where they mashed together a bunch of numbers. So usually it was just 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then there'd be, 3, and then they do an entire animation with 3. But this version has all the numbers. So like 9, 11, 12. It's great. It's great.
Oh, that does sound good. Eric, did you see the video that got uploaded today by Paula Deming? The Things Get Dicey video where for anyone who hasn't seen it, over on the Things Get Dicey channel, Paula did a video where she basically parodies a whole bunch of board game reviewers, including our favorite Fedora former co-host.
Yep.
And Holy cow, is it good?
I believe she does say, "Hey, folks," and yeah, that is an amazing video. And let me just say, Paula is so much fun to watch. I love all of her stuff, and I think she was at Dice Tower Con, and I got to do very little more than just say hi very briefly, and I wish I had been able to say more. This is always one of those regrets whenever you go to a convention and realize someone was there, or you only got to see them for a second, but I want to get a chance to tell her how much I appreciate her stuff, because she puts in a lot of work, and it's very entertaining. And speaking of Paula, there's a podcast called Death by Monsters that I just started listening to today. It's Paula Deming and Nick Murphy and Matthew Jude. It is not a board gaming podcast. It's about like paranormal events and famous mysteries. Also not safe for work. They get a little salty in their language. But it's a very entertaining show, and if you are inclined to hear about a famous mystery or like Bigfoot, it's very entertaining.
I will admit, I love the stuff that all of those people work on a regular basis, and I have not gotten a chance to listen to Death by Monsters yet, mostly because my podcast queue is already so far behind on everything at this point that adding anything new is a monumental feat. But I really do want to check it out because they're really funny. I've listened to the little like snippets that they've uploaded on Twitter, and every single one is really funny and great. So I'm sure I would love it.
Yeah. Gator Dave asks, this is probably a good place to finish up. If you weren't part of the Dice Tower or YouTube, would you still go to Gen Con?
For me, the answer is yes, but not every year. I think it is a lot of fun, and it is something I would have enjoyed regardless of my involvement in board game media, but I don't think it's something that I would need to do every year. For me personally, if I wasn't working, so to speak, in the hobby, the conventions that I would frequent more often would be the ones like Dice Tower East, Dice Tower West, BGG Con, the ones that are focused more on open gaming, where I can just hang out with a lot of really cool people and meet a lot of cool people and sit around playing lots of games. Those are the things that I love the most. I really did have a good time at Gen Con, but I prefer the cons that are about open gaming. And I'm going to let you answer, but then I got to transition into something else that just reminded me of. So you say your answer first.
Sure. And my answer is going to be very similar to yours. I think if I was not part of the industry, if I didn't have duties to perform at Gen Con, I would probably not do Gen Con. I guess it's possible. It is sort of the hotbed of new releases, and I'd be excited about games that were premiering there, but I would probably put my attention more toward the play type conventions. I'd probably go back to BGG Con again. I do one of the Dice Tower conventions. I would maybe do Origins as a more low-key big convention, but Gen Con it's an intense con, and it's almost overwhelming. So I think if I was not supposed to be there, I might back off from that one and attend some of the quieter conventions.
It's funny, Mac Drizzle just said, Crystal just made the best argument for going to the retreat. And for the record, I know I would love the retreat. If Florida weren't quite so far from Las Vegas, then it would be easier for me to maybe not come for every single day, but at least pop in for the weekend. But because I live so far, it's too difficult to swing that. I have to take time off work to do it at all. And a whole day's worth of travel. But what I was going to say that it reminded me of is I have not mentioned yet tonight, Eric, that in just 6 days, registration for Dice Tower West opens.
We probably should mention that, yeah.
We should definitely mention that. So for those of you who aren't aware, Dice Tower West is a board game convention that happens in Las Vegas, where I live. I have been involved with that convention for the past 4 years. It has been happening for 5 years. It used to be called MeepleCon, and this past year we rebranded it to Dice Tower West. We will be growing it as time goes on, but we are not growing it exponentially super fast. the reason I'm saying that is because badges are going to sell out, and they are likely going to sell out quickly. It is not because we're trying to limit it or prevent people from coming. It is just a matter of logistics and us developing a relationship with the venue, because surprisingly or unsurprisingly, people are not want to give large areas of space to people that they don't have established relationships with, and that makes sense. So 6 p.m. August 27th, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern, is when both badges and hotel rooms are going to go on sale for Dice Tower West. So make sure you put that in your phone. If you want a badge, you will need to get it quickly. They will sell out. Last year, the first group of badges that we released sold out in about 8 hours. And then we released a few hundred more when we negotiated more space, and those sold out in about 24 hours. I expect those time frames to be abbreviated this year. I expect them to go faster. So, regular badges are $100 for all 5 days. VIP badges are $200, and those include dinner with the entire Dice Tower crew, including Eric and myself. A free shirt and a swag bag, which I can't say specifically what that will include yet, mostly because we're not 100% certain yet. But last year, it included free games, free expansions to games, dice towers, dice trays, enamel pins, like lots of cool stuff. So if you are looking for some swag, the VIP badge is definitely the way to go. We also have badges for kids 10 and under for $60. And the hotel rooms range anywhere between $89 and $139 a night, depending on what day of the week it is. And honestly, for Vegas, near the Strip, that's not bad. Like, really, for hotel room prices. Yeah. So,
Tom is apparently answering questions in the chat about whether the convention center is smoky. It is not, but the casino nearby does have smokers in it. So you can sort of power your way through it, but the convention center itself does not have a smoke problem, no.
And I will say I have severe asthma, and obviously everyone's, health concerns are different. I hate walking through the casinos here in Las Vegas. I hate that they allow smoke, that it just, even if people aren't actively smoking in an area, you smell smoke walking through the casino. But yes, in the convention center itself, there are no issues. So if you are very, very sensitive to smoke, you may want to purchase or bring a mask of some sort for when you walk through the casino area. But when you're in the convention center, you should generally be fine. I will say the dryness does get to some people that are not from here.
It's true. Yeah.
But nothing we can do about that.
And the website for getting those tickets, Crystal?
DicetowerWest.com. That is where both the badges and the link to the hotel block will be, and that will be going live 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, August 27th. And I'll kindly ask that people not barrage social media with questions that night, because I'm the person answering all of them. So
be kind. You're going to be very busy with other things, basically.
I will admit, the moment badges sell out is when I get a lot of not kind messages on our social media pages. So just remember to be nice, and that we're not trying to keep anyone out intentionally for that reason.
All right, so you have been warned for sure. I think that's where we should end it, Crystal.
That sounds like a good place to end it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for participating in the chat. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button, because engagement is good. We certainly appreciate it. And I think that's where we're going to end it.
That's it. So until next time, I'm Crystal Pisano.
I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been watching Dice Tower Tonight.
Thanks for watching. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. Crystal and I will see you in 2 weeks for another installment. Our show is supported by viewers like you. Thank you. Dice Tower Tonight is produced by Crystal and me, with assistance from Tom Vassell, Chris Barr, Roy Cannaday, and Rob Searing. The news that the red-headed kid from Riverdale grew up, settled down, and had twin baby boys, brought to you by Sons of Anarchy. Timothy Pinkham composed our theme, and hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at CoolStuffInc.com. Give us your feedback on the Dice Tower Guild at Board Game Geek on Facebook or Twitter, or by emailing us at dicetower@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network. Find something new at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all of us at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming. Hey, you ever get those home videos where the uncle would be like, all right, we're done. And then they spend 5 minutes trying to find where the button is to turn things off?
You know what? I do remember those home videos. And usually it inevitably cuts off somebody mid-sentence when someone does find the button. So I'm just going to keep talking
that's probably
until it
what's gonna
eventually